Thank you. Good morning, and thank you for joining us today. Again, my name is Mike Barsky. I am the superintendent in charge of specialized criminal investigations, which includes those investigations taken upon by our hold-up squad. Like many other cities across Canada, Toronto continues to see a rise in the number of vehicle thefts. We know that these involve multi-jurisdictional investigations and include things such as carjackings, where suspects use physical force and sometimes weapons to get victims from their vehicles. As is the case in this investigation that we'll speak about today, whether physically injured or not, we know that these types of crimes have an undeniable and traumatic effect on those involved. As Inspector Harris will articulate, we have worked closely with our partners on Project Tyga, including York and Peel Regional Police. These excellent partnerships have ultimately resulted in the arrest of two people charged with 19 separate carjackings, where we were able to successfully recover 17 of those vehicles and either return them to their rightful owners or their insurance companies. On behalf of the Toronto Police Service, I would like to take this opportunity to thank our partners. The efforts that it is to tackle these car thefts and carjackings and to ultimately bring justice for those victims involved. I will now turn it over to Inspector Harris to give you more of the details of the investigation. Thank you.
Good morning, and thank you, Superintendent Barsky. I am extremely pleased to announce these arrests that have been made in a recent rash of carjacking incidents that have taken place between the months of March and April of this year. This investigation, dubbed Project Tyga, in conjunction with a related investigation held by York Regional Police Service Hold-Up Squad, dubbed Project Cayenne, identified a total of 19 carjackings, as you just heard, within the GTA spanning across Toronto, York, and Peel regions. A total of 17 vehicles have been recovered. 2 remain outstanding. 3 were found abandoned in Toronto, and 2 were found burnt out. I'm also pleased to announce that in 8 of these incidents, suspects were thankfully unsuccessful in obtaining the vehicles that they sought from the victims. It's an estimated total value of the vehicles obtained over this 1-month crime spree to range in and around $1 to $1.5 million. The suspects used extreme violence towards the victims while committing these acts with the sole intention of stealing these vehicles for profit. They focused on obtaining high-end SUVs, and it's believed that these vehicles were being obtained for the sale to illicit businesses throughout the GTA or also for transportation overseas. The investigation revealed the subjects would travel major highways within the GTA in stolen vehicles to identify vehicles that they were intending to target. It's alleged that they would then follow these vehicles to an intersection or in some cases to the victims' residences when they would commit these violent acts. The suspects would wait for the victim to stop the vehicle before approaching and demand that the victims would exit their vehicles. In most incidents, the victims were compliant. However, they'd be subjected to unprovoked, violent physical attacks. A few of the victims, in this investigation did receive some form of medical attention after the robberies, including a hospital attendance in one incident and various minor injuries. Our investigation has led us to have identified 2 accused who are now currently before the courts: Merrick Badawi, age 22, and Christopher Hugo Chukwu, 19 years of age. The arrests were made on April 11th of this year. Part of the investigation, investigators identified a hotel room that they were linked to in Mississauga. And the Toronto Police Hold-Up Squad, along with members of the York Regional Police Hold-Up Squad, executed a series of search warrants at that particular unit and 4 vehicles that were seized that day in conjunction with this investigation. Also seized was a Glock firearm loaded with 15 rounds of ammunition, It was also modified to make that particular firearm fully automatic, and 2 extended prohibited magazines, along with 32 rounds of ammunition. Also located and seized were victims' identification and property, vehicle keys from the carjacking incidents, clothing worn during the robberies, and a vehicle key reprogramming device. Both men now face more than 90 charges for a variety of offenses, including robbery with a firearm, robbery, and disguise with intent. There's going to be a news release that's going to come out indicating the specific charges and the next court dates of the accused. But I want to reiterate the comments made by Superintendent Barsky. The successful results of this investigation cannot go unnoticed and are the direct result of an excellent partnership that we do have with the York Regional Police Service, Peel Regional Police Service, and many of our GTA hold-up partners, and internally as well. And subject to any questions, that's where we're at with Project Tyga.
We will begin with questions first from those on WebEx and then move to the floor. When you are called on, please unmute the mic at this time only. You may ask one question and one follow-up. Once you have asked your question, you will be muted again. Those on the floor, please ask your questions on the mic to the right when you are called on. Asher Roth, City News, go ahead with your one question and one follow-up.
Sorry, guys, I don't have a question at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Linda Ward, CBC, go ahead with your one question and one follow-up.
I'm just wondering if you're looking for anybody else in relation to this, if you think there might be other people involved, or this might be a larger operation, or you think you've got everybody?
Absolutely. This is by no means a concluded investigation. It's still ongoing. I can't get really too deep into it, other than the fact that as it stands, we are still looking for some outstanding people. This is a matter before the court, so I can't comment any further. But by no stretch of the imagination is this investigation completed.
Can you talk just a little bit more about the effect on the victims here? Obviously, you know, shaken up, you spoke a little bit about the injuries, but what does crime like this, what kind of effect does crime like this have on those who are just out doing, you know, running errands or doing whatever?
Absolutely, it's a great question. One could only imagine the trauma that a victim would go through being subjected to a robbery like this. These are violent individuals, and for the most part, the victims were minding their own business, going about their regular routines, and ambushed by these 2 violent individuals. The lasting effects, I can only make a guess, but I am 100% aware that it does have lasting psychological effects on the victims, whether they were physically assaulted or not. The psychological impact is tremendous.
Thank you, Linda. Clara Pasica, CBC, go ahead with your one question and one follow-up.
Is there any advice that you're offering to Torontonians or in other regions to prevent something like this from happening to them?
Absolutely. And I've said it before in previous conferences, and there's constant messaging that we do put out to the members of the public and the communities on safety tips. Be aware of your surroundings. Invest in dash cam footage if you can. Try to comply as best as you can to lessen the propensity for violence, although it's not a guaranteed. These are some of the safeguards that people can have in place. Don't drive in dark places, and when you do drive, make sure your vehicle doors are locked, and create witnesses. If something doesn't feel right, create witnesses, and like I said, it most likely will end in a more successful conclusion that way, and hopefully no one gets hurt as a result of violence.
Thank you. Mike Walker, CTV, go ahead with your questions.
Good morning. Just hoping maybe you can take us back to the hotel where you found some of these vehicles there. Is this an area where we believe the suspects were hiding out and keeping these vehicles before they were destined anywhere? And were they working with anyone? And that's like, how were they able to, you know, unload these vehicles to other destinations?
The unloading part is, again, part of the ongoing investigation. The hotel unit was one that was identified as being associated to these two individuals. Upon execution of the search warrant, I forgot to mention that there were also two females that were located within, and they now face a slew of firearm-related offenses as well. How long and what degree their association to the unit is part of an ongoing matter before the courts, unfortunately.
You know, we were here just a couple of months ago talking about this, and as you alluded earlier, this is on the rise. How much of an increase are we seeing in these types of carjackings, auto thefts, and what are police doing now in the wake of this?
That's a great question. Again, we have noted there has been an increase in car thefts and carjacking incidents. We remain steadfast in our resolve and continue to investigate these things to the fullest extent in order to bring people before the courts. It's an unfortunate thing, and again, with the crime preventative tips, hopefully these things can decrease. But rest assured, with the great relationships we have, not only internally but with external police services across the GTA, it's only a matter of time before we make arrests.
Thank you, Mike. Steve Ryan, CP24, go ahead with your one question and one follow-up.
Inspector, congratulations on some great police work. Perception is a community's reality, as we all know. So how does violent random crimes with unknown frequencies affect a community when you see this transpire like this?
Well, it has devastating effects. People should not have to live in fear, and rightfully so. Like I said, the effects that this has on members of the community is one that I can only imagine. And we continually want to address those concerns by aggressive police work and gathering enough evidence to put these matters before the courts in a timely fashion. It's upsetting, obviously, and devastating. I can only imagine, as I said earlier, the effects that one person feels and endures after having to go through such a violent act.
Now, your squad, the Hold Up Squad's an elite squad for many, many years. What would you say to potential future crooks that are out there thinking that they're going to come in here and do similar things? What you as the leader of the squad, what would your message be to them as to whether or not they want to come under the investigation of the Hold Up Squad?
As I mentioned earlier, the Hold Up Squad will actively and thoroughly investigate carjacking incidents and any incidents of robbery where there's violence to the fullest extent. And it is our intention, and we also put our minds in place of the victims, and that's what's one of the driving factors that motivate investigators to actively investigate these matters and bring those responsible before the courts.
This concludes today's conference. Thank you for joining us.